All right, welcome to our first all hands meeting, which marks the end of phase one, actually. So it's been a very action-packed 2 weeks that we've accomplished a lot, and there is a lot for us to present about. Our team leaders, our groups, they've been working really hard. And this is the first time that online forum and mobile app get to know what each other is doing, right? So what we're gonna do in today's meeting is we have the whole team here together, everybody from all of the teams, and a number of our executives from Kyros as well. So we'll be going through what each of the teams has been doing on both projects. So mobile app will go first. Business and marketing will share what they've been working on. Engineering will share what they have been working on, and UX will share as well. And there's some very high-level deliverables from both business and marketing and UX team, and engineering has been working really hard to prepare for phase two, which is our production phase. So what the business marketing teams will showcase is their competitive analysis, their focus group studies, and their PRDs that they've been working so hard on. And what the UX team will showcase is their wireframes. And finally, the engineering will tell us a bit of the example code and programming that they've been working on to prepare for the next phase and implementing those UX designs.
A general competitor overview and identified some customer pain points. The idea is that the two teams had very similar assignments, just with focuses on online forum versus mobile app. And then lastly, our PM team has been working on multiple iterations of the PRD, product requirement document, over these 2 weeks. So over the first week, they were able to take their teammates' notes and research on the two competitive analysis research documents and come up with the first draft of our PRD. And then during this week, we were able to flesh out exactly what our recommendations are and the features of each recommendation. And then the PM team was also able to put together analytics and key performance indicators for each recommendation, as well as any planning and future steps. So going to the next.
I'm first going to give a little summary of what we've done so these past 2 weeks. So for the first week, what we did was we did wireframe sketches, and we also went and researched the features that would usually be there for mobile apps and for forums. And so once we did that, we came to a conclusion on the features that we were going to use. So I'm just going to go over the features. So we have 3 features. We have the chat feature, we have the assignments feature, we have the notifications feature. And then we also added a feature at the last minute, which was the contacts feature.
So overall, basically what we've been doing so far is learning how to build an app and just preparing for the overall, the actual mobile app. And the screenshot there is an example of one of the exercises that we did, like a basic chatting app. Other things we've been doing is we learned how, so like I said before, we learned how to use Flutter and Android Studio, which basically are the tools we use to create the app. We've also practiced by doing projects and a bunch of different exercises. And then we learned how to use Git, which is basically a tool that helps us collaborate with others in projects. So this image here, it might be kind of hard to see, but basically what everybody did was they added their own file from their own device onto the same project. So that'll be really useful in creating the actual app. Okay, this is an example of one of the exercises that we did. It's a basic password app where you enter a password. Can you play the video? All right, so this exercise basically helped us develop some of the fundamental skills in creating apps, and we learned things such as making those buttons, those text widgets, and how to write basic functions using Android Studio and Flutter. And I think that's pretty much.
The team conducted competitive analysis in the first week, following the same kind of template and questions that was previously shown. So first, they did a deep dive on the competitor, and then the second assignment, they took what they found from the competitor and applied that to their own thinking and kind of brought back personal insights for the PRD team or for the PM team to make into our first draft of the PRD. And then in this week, the second week of phase one, we conducted 4 focus group studies in total. So 2 for each team, 2 for online forum and 2 for mobile app. So our 2 marketing teams for our online forum each conducted 1 focus group study. And again, the questions and the setup of our study was pretty much identical for the 2 different projects. And again, we focused on 4 aspects: user acquisition, retention, a sense of community, and a freemium model. And then lastly, again, for this week, our PRD was created after the insights that we gained from the focus group study, and then also after a brainstorming session with the whole group.
Plan for the first 2 weeks in general, what we did was there were 3 mini deliverables and 1 final bigger deliverable. We started with basically studying and researching online forum to get a better understanding of what we're dealing with. And then the students also studied design patterns, including Gestalt and Nelson's principles to better their design choices. And finally, during week 1, they produced hand-drawing sketches of initial representations of vision forum layouts. And that was the first mini deliverable. And building on top of that, following that in the first week, the students were introduced to wireframing processes and reasonings, and they were also introduced to important practices for the wireframing processes. So this way, they were able to produce lo-fi wireframes using Adobe XD, and that was presented at the end of the first week. Starting from the second week, the students were introduced to design requirement purposes, and also they were able to incorporate Kyros themes and messages with design patterns and principles into building their annotated wireframes. Just got them thinking about that. I think them participating in the marketing team's focus study is also really helpful in choosing these features and design choices. And also, they produced a detailed design requirement document as a guideline for the annotated wireframe. And finally, for the final deliverable, which is the annotated wireframe, they collaborated as a team to design a final set of wireframes, which we'll see later. They also implemented annotations to describe design choices, features, and individual elements. Because we had 2 wire sets, so we went through a process of presenting and voting for a set to be first implemented for the engineering team.
Pretty much close to newcomers to JavaScript and CSS. And we've just been slowly building up some of our skills. So we started off with a simple button, then we added some more functionalities such as getting some user input. We added some stylings, so we got arrows, as you can see. And our latest project, or our latest completed small project, is on the slide here. So for example, you have a post, you have a title, and then you have an edit button. And then this post is also collapsible. So if you click on the title, the post actually collapses and you can reopen it and edit it if you'd like. And then next to it, for example, you have the 2 arrows and a vote incrementer. So this goes hand in hand with things that the UX team might want to implement. So such as you want some more well-voted posts to float to the top, and this would be a good way to have that happen. Hopefully, we'll get to be even more familiar with the coding and work together with CTO and other higher, more experienced coding professionals to get this thing going and turn the wireframe designers' ideas into something that you can actually interact with.
Awesome. We have a quick demo, 30-second demo of how this works. It pretty much puts together all the things that we've been working on. So you can see you can click on the title of the post to expand it. You can edit the post. When you click submit, it will change the text of the post. You can upvote it, downvote it, and you can edit the post again and it will retain the text that was previously there. There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Joshua, for giving us an update on what the students have worked on so far. And thank you to all of the teams. Give yourself a round of applause because this is really high quality work. And it's been a really short turnaround.
Yeah. Wow. I hope everyone is as impressed as I am. So thank you very much for the hard work and the congratulations, everybody, all our interns, our team leads, and product managers, project managers, our program directors. Fantastic job. So happy Friday evening. You just completed the easiest part. So now let's get to the harder part. But let's take a moment just to reflect a little bit what you have accomplished. What we really designed the summer internship into 3 phases is because phase 1, very important phase 1, is if we are to simulate a real work environment, which you typically don't get in high school or when you go to a student organization or participating in debate clubs. But when you are in a working environment, you first and foremost, you need to understand your roles and responsibilities, right? What is the scope of work? What are you supposed to be accountable for? Whether you are managing a team or you're reporting to a manager. So roles and responsibilities are very important from the get-go, understand that. So as you reflect back in the last 2 weeks, have you clearly understand your own roles and responsibilities? Number 2, team bonding, because you're not doing this alone, right? If you wanted to do it fast, do it by yourself. But if you wanted to accomplish something much more significant and go further, you need a team, which requires everybody to bring your own skills, your own perspectives, but you're also bound to have differences, right? And together, you're gonna be better as a team. But that requires team bonding. So when I heard that Richard organized a game night, everybody had a lot of fun, very important, right? Not only you have to respect each other, understand where you're coming from, but you need to have certain elements of friendship. And with that, it's much easier as you go through the debate and arguments and really help you to shift your own perspective and see where the other person's coming from. So together, you're gonna be building something much more beautiful. And so this is also the second element that I want you to reflect about your past 2 weeks. Have you done that? If you haven't, please do make it up for the next few weeks. Third thing is getting used to the tools and processes, right? When you have a team, you have to collaborate with each other. You have to respect each other's time and space and how each other works. But aside from that, so the process part comes in, what works best for the whole team. It's not just about what works best for you. So have respect, but do get very familiar with the tools that help you to improve your productivity, but also understand and respect the processes. So you have a team productivity. So that's the third point I want you to reflect upon. Now, I said this is just the easiest part because all of you have already been trained to do some intellectual exercise, right? Putting some ideas and think about the problems and putting your thoughts onto a piece of paper. And that you have already done sort of in the past. And now we just say, here is the focal point. Here are the specific projects, you know, as you listen to Kaden walks through the PRD, the product requirements document, is really help you to stay laser focused. Who are the users? What are the problems we're trying to solve, right? What are the key features? Why this, why not that, right? Because you have limited time and resources, you have to stay very focused. But at the end of the day, it is still a very much of an intellectual exercise, because later you will figure out and discover that what you thought may not work. Now what do we do, right? But for the first 2 weeks, we do want you to go through that intellectual exercise and putting everything down on piece of paper. And now the next phase begins. So this, in summary, it is a warm up, right? Warm up to stay focused, to really get yourself familiarized with the tools and processes, get to know your team members better, and understand what your accountabilities are. Next Monday, phase 2, we're gonna look forward and we're gonna have a few things you're gonna keep in your mind as you begin this phase 2. So on the right side, I put a circle here. And as now in phase 2, you are not just working with a smaller team within marketing and product management, within UI and testing, within engineering, right? That's what you've been doing for the past 2 weeks. Now, as we move into phase 2, we are going to increase the complexity and also have more team members to collaborate with each other. So I will explain how a typical process happens within the company. So for example, Kaden's team for the past 2 weeks have done a lot of market research, competitive analysis, done focus group surveys, and come back with the PRD. Supposedly, this PRT should clearly lay out the key features, do's and don'ts, and what that user should be getting. And then they're supposed to hand this over to Sanjana and Richard's team, right? So now you have a UI team going in and putting those key features into a wireframe, you know, the buttons, the colors, the annotated, you know, what it's supposed to do. And then next step is for the engineering team to take that from the UI team, that wireframes, and start actually implementing into code the features and functionalities, right? Now, this sounds very easy and simple, but in real life, it gets very hairy, because very soon you will discover, well, you know, we thought the marketing team wanted this and that, but we don't have enough resources or technically viability. It's just simply not there. Or the UI team have thought about this, but the engineering team said, well, that's too difficult to implement. Can you change this and that, but we will still achieve the same goal? So you will see this circle is not going to be a clean line, because you're constantly working with each other, getting each other's input and feedback, and start negotiating, and things getting more complicated. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter how you differ in your own opinions, or sometimes it's facts, you have to always keep the common mission in mind. So you state a problem and you have to go in and provide a solutions. And sometimes it's not just one solution, it could be multiple solutions. And you're gonna start prioritizing it. And you're gonna start defining what's the path of least resistance. So in the real world, it's never a clean cut. It's never just hand over and get it done. It's always, always a negotiation. And sometimes the personality also comes in, right? Some people can be very strong, opinionated. They can be very assertive, but doesn't mean they're just right, just because they talk very assertively. And some people are very introvert, but they can have brilliant ideas. And then you have to sort of dig a little bit deeper to bring that brilliant idea out of a very introvert person, right? So in the real world, when you have a common mission that will unite everybody together, you're still constantly debating and negotiating and going back and forth. So in summary, what I wanted to say in phase 2, the challenge, the level of difficulties go up and the complexity go up, and the communication is much more critical in that bigger group now. So you're going to start paying attention to team collaboration, team dynamics, who is saying what? Is that reasonable? Can I do it? If not, how do I go back to that particular person or to that particular team, right? The other thing about technology product is we call fast iteration. Some people use CI/CD, continuous integration or continuous development. So what that really means is that, well, sometimes we don't know, right? We can go through many assumptions, but until you actually develop it, you don't know what are the snags you're going to hit, what are the problems that's unforeseen. So what we typically do is say, well, make mistakes, but make them fast, right? Fail fast, get up and do it again. So this really focus on these two words, fast and iteration. So you will see between prototyping, implementation, testing, and refining, and between the three groups, and you will see sometimes engineering will be pushing back on UI, say, well, no, that's just too complicated, I can't do it. Or UI pushing back, say, well, why can't you do it? This is my original idea. And marketing team can come back and say, no, this is a critical feature you can't cut, but maybe you can cut that, not this, right? So you will see the three teams going to be meeting a lot more often and going through that negotiation, and requires a lot of communication skills to be improved. And along the way, you will start recognizing your own leadership skills, communication skills, and teamwork spirit. Very, very important. The third thing as you go through phase 2 is a set of constraints. Because like in the ideal world, when I put things on the paper, I have a long wish list. I hope Santa arrives early, but they don't, right? So you have a very limited time, you have limited headcount, and you have to decide, do I use this library? If I introduce this library, I increase the complexity, the performance gets slower, right? So now you have to debate on the technical viability, but also the performance, the features, and all that comes to play. And then when you can't do everything, given the time, given the headcount, given the technical viability, now it requires you to prioritize. And it's really difficult to let go, especially if you're an artist or if you think like, this is my baby, it's really difficult to let go. But in real world, it will be forced upon you, right? The product has to be launched by the end of this month, and we only have 5 people, and one is on vacation, one is sick. Now you have 3 people. So these are the parameters you're constantly juggling in the real world.